getting a lot more context. We're starting to see the images and the audio that we hadn't caught before. It adds to just the level of calamity that happened in that school, to understanding the confusion, the misinformation, the lack of leadership, all of that. What we may never understand is why there were almost 400 officers from at least 7 different law enforcement agencies, all with the capacity, the ability, and the training to go in and stop the shooter, and yet they waited 73 minutes. I want to warn people, this video was edited to protect the families and the witnesses, but it is still very distressing to watch.
Oh, shots fired! Get inside! Go, go, go! Take cover, guys.
Am I bleeding? Am I bleeding? Am I bleeding?
New body cam footage released by the Uvalde mayor shows the first moments officers arrived at Robb Elementary School.
That's my wife's classroom. He's shooting in the classroom. I got me, right?
About 4 minutes after the shooter entered rooms 111 and 112, one officer is grazed. School police officer Ruben Ruiz was heard in the background, recognizing his wife's classroom.
Dude, we gotta get in there. We gotta get in there. He just keeps shooting.
But seconds later, confusion and misinformation. In a different body cam video from another officer who heads outside to take cover and alert dispatch, he seems to believe the suspect is inside an office.
He's contained. We got multiple officers inside the building at this time. He believes he's barricaded in one of the offices. Messed up, is still shooting.
Shortly after, the urgency fades and officers are seen waiting and waiting.
What are we doing
looking
here?
for guidance.
What are we doing here?
Some begin to break windows and pull students out of the building.
Yeah, go, 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 go.
By now, we see the first images of the school district's chief of police, Pete Arredondo.
Sir, if you can hear me, please put your firearm down, sir. We don't want anybody else hurt.
Arredondo and other officers try to negotiate with the suspect.
Let me know if there's any kids in there or anything. This could be peaceful.
We hear police dispatch alert officers that a child is calling 911 from inside a classroom.
You have a child on the line.
Hey, what was that?
He is in a room full of victims.
Close to 5 minutes later, Arredondo is seen heading towards a classroom, not where the shooter was, to test keys and appears unable to open it. More minutes tick by, with little action appearing to be taken by the officers inside the school, besides trying to talk to the suspect.
Please put your gun down, sir. Please don't hurt anyone else.
And more keys to open the door that we've come to learn was likely already unlocked.
We're testing keys.
There were multiple systemic failures.
On Sunday, a Texas committee found that the chaotic scene was caused by a lack of leadership. The committee released a 77-page report which found that those first responders who went right towards the shooter's classroom within minutes acted appropriately at first. But all officers failed to prioritize saving the lives of innocent victims over their own safety. It also found that the shooter had a problematic history and even earned the nickname school shooter on social media platforms because of violent threats he would make against other users.
If you know there's active shooting, active killing going on, or somebody is dying, the standard is you have to continue to do something to stop that killing.
It makes you think about just so many ways to prevent this level of loss of life. We know that the report also said that there were no villains, that nobody acted out of ill motive. However, the report also states that although they suspect that most people died within the first few minutes, it's plausible that more lives could have been saved if police had acted sooner. They're waiting on more medical evidence to make a commentary or a conclusion about that fact. Vlad, Anne-Marie.
So, Lilia, you've been in Uvalde covering this, and you've spoken to some members of the community, and I know that they want accountability, but are they seeing any?
They're definitely not seeing accountability. I mean, yesterday it was very emotional. There was a meeting with this committee, and a lot of, family members voiced their frustrations. There was a meeting with the mayor. There was, people were, at least one person was escorted out. There's rage, there's anger. There's not a lot of places to put that rage and anger because there hasn't been a lot of accountability. Families want to see the school take responsibility, or at least the administration of the school, because that log to room 111 had been faulty. The students parents knew it, the teachers knew it, the school knew it, nobody fixed it. That is a huge problem, because at least it would have delayed the shooter from going into the classroom. The same situation happened with the door outside of the school where he went into. They want to see accountability from police. I've talked and I heard from parents who say, I want every single officer that was there to turn in their badge. They shouldn't be police officers right now. There are going to be lawsuits. There's already some lawsuits underway, including one to the gun manufacturer, and they want to see. I don't know that they'll be able to get much accountability. Of course, the shooter was killed, but that, you know, family members, people knew that he had sociopathic tendencies, that he had suicidal ideation, that he had violent communication online. That, as I say in this piece, he was known, or somebody mentioned in a series of texts that we saw in the report, as the school shooter. So many ways to stop this tragedy that failed these families. And, you know, one of the things that, Vlad, I know we discussed this on CBS Mornings this morning, that you heard from these parents. I interviewed Nikki and Brett Cross, who told me, you know, we should have had a parade for our heroes. Perhaps, maybe an officer might have died trying to save those children. But, you know, they had plenty of weapons to go in, but instead they had to bury 19 children and 2 teachers.
Lilia, I can imagine there's a lot of body cam video to go through. You couldn't fit everything in your story. Anything else on the body cam video that really stuck out to you?
You know, the timing and the misinformation really stood out. The fact that within the first 4 minutes, we hear Ruben Ruiz, who is one of the school district police officers, say, that's my wife's classroom. So within the first 4 minutes, the shooter had just started shooting. That communication should have been passed along to everybody. Also, in terms of communication, we recall that the director of DPS, Steve McCross, said that none of the officers in there had communication about 911 calls coming in, and yet in these body cam videos, we hear dispatchers were speaking to officers on radio. So how come all of that information wasn't relayed? I mean, you know, also something that struck to me, and I mean, that stuck with me and that I had noticed in the DPS timeline before is that, and now we know because of the report, Arredondo was supposed to be the incident commander. The incident commander is supposed to leave the school, to come in, he's one of the first responders, come out and organize everything. He didn't do that, but neither did anyone else. Nobody else took charge. And towards, not even the end, I think about a half hour before the shooter was stopped, if not more than that, BORTAC, the Border Patrol tactical unit that ended up killing the shooter, they were approaching the school, and we hear Arredondo saying something like, nobody effing come in. I mean, there's a lot of hold on, when everybody had to do the opposite, go in, 70 minutes before, 73 minutes before that.
Yeah, I know Arredondo has taken a lot of heat, a lot of criticism, but clearly there's plenty to go around. Clearly, a lot of people didn't make the choices that they should have made. Lilia, I know you spoke to those parents. We're hoping to maybe air some of that interview later on today. Thank you so much.